The man raised the hammer and slammed the gangster on the head. The criminal in the monitoring room felt bad, got up to check, but was knocked unconscious by a heavy punch from the man. When he woke up, he was already tied to the desk. The man used a marker to draw marks on his neck, followed by a manual knife to cut off his skin and flesh, and then sprinkled salt on his wounds. With severe pain, the criminals begged for mercy. But the man ignored it and continued to torture him. What kind of hatred can cause a man to do such a crazy thing? 20 years ago, Joe just experienced a failed marriage. Career is not good, life is very tormented. He can only rely on alcohol to numb themselves till he got a job opportunity, but while the male client went to the toilet, he molested the female client. As a result, not only did he lose his job, but he was also severely humiliated by the other party. He was in a depressed mood and took a bottle of wine to get drunk on the street, who knew that it was raining heavily and drenched him. At that moment, a woman with a yellow umbrella found him. After a good night's sleep, Joe woke up from the bed. At this time, he didn't realize the seriousness of the matter. He thought the woman was taking a shower, so he got up and went to the toilet. Strangely, no matter how he called the woman, he got no response. It wasn't until he lifted the shower curtain that the woman was gone. Feeling bad, Joe looked around and found a landscape painting behind the curtains, and the door could not be opened. Then, he realized that he was imprisoned. Taking advantage of the gap between the mystery man's delivery of food, Joe stuck his head out to ask for help, but the mystery man simply ignored him, so angry that he threw the food directly. Subsequently, he swallowed high-quality liquor to calm down his emotions. In the following days, the mystery man would not have any communication with him except for the dumplings that he would deliver every day. There was also only television set in the room that allowed him to see the outside world. On this night, Joe was watching TV. The next moment, a thick plume of smoke suddenly spewed out of the room. Joe is in a coma, and several mysterious people came in and took his hair, fingerprints, and various liquids. When he woke up, a murder news was playing on the TV, and the deceased was his ex-wife. Was abused before his death. The police found Joe's fingerprints and hair left at the scene, and Joe's DNA was also extracted from the deceased's body. In this way, Joe became the target of the police wanted. It seems that this group of criminals is not just detaining him, but even destroying the people around him. Joe's spirit was completely broken, and he really couldn't understand why the other party did this. Under the enormous psychological pressure, Joe began to have hallucinations. The whole person became obsessed, and even became friends with mice. The next day, the mystery man made mice directly into food for Joe to eat. Joe broke down completely. He broke the mirror and cut his hand with a shard of glass. But he did not die. The mystery man rescued him and re-entered the room. This time, Joe realized that his every move was being monitored. 5 years have passed, and an interview program is playing on the TV. It turns out that the couple adopted Joe's daughter, Mia. Seeing that Mia could already play the violin, Joe smiled for the first time. At this time, he found the meaning of life. He will never kill himself again, because he has to keep this life to see his favorite daughter. From that day on, Joe would write a letter to Mia every day. Then, he started to quit drinking, training fighting skills on the TV, and digging the walls in the bathroom a little bit. Before knew it, 15 years had passed. Joe finally dug through the wall and saw the first rays of light coming in from outside. Just as he was packing up his things to leave, an interview with Mia was playing on the TV. Seeing his daughter, Joe couldn't help but stop in his tracks unexpectedly. The house shot out smoke again and knocked him out. Shortly after, Joe woke up from the box. At this point, he had been thrown outdoors by the mystery man. It had been exactly 20 years he had seen the light of day again. Joe grabbed a handful of weed and kissed it greedily, the taste of freedom. Joe's eyes sting from the long absence of sunlight. Fortunately, he had a pair of sunglasses by his side, and he put them on immediately. After checking, he found that he had been changed into a suit, his hair had been trimmed, and there was a bag beside him with a letter he wrote to Mia, a stack of dollars and a mobile phone. Just at this moment, Joe discovered that the woman holding the yellow umbrella was standing not far away. So, Joe immediately chased after him to ask, but he was stopped by a group of young people. Joe taught them a hard lesson without saying a word. When he saw the yellow umbrella again, the woman was gone and gave it to the stranger. Just when Joe was getting angry, a medical worker named Mary stopped him and handed her business card to Joe. At the same time, she persuaded him that if he needs help, he can call at any time. Later, Joe came to the bar of his former friend Jack and told all about what had happened over the years. Just at this moment, the phone rang, and the mystery man asked him to do everything possible to find out the truth, otherwise he would hurt Mia. In this way, Joe asked Jack to find the computer for clues. From being too tired, Joe fainted. Jack found Mary threw the business card on him. While tending to Joe, Mary saw the pile of letters and learned how things were going. She was moved by this deep fatherly love and decided to help Joe find the truth together. The next day, Joe ate all the dumplings in the Chinese restaurant and finally found a familiar taste. He sat in the restaurant waiting silently and noticed a man buying many dumplings. Joe took a hammer and followed close behind. When the man reaches his destination, Joe knocks him down with a hammer. Then he came to the guard and killed him with a hammer. In the monitoring room, Cheney found movement outside the door, so he opened the door to check, but was knocked out by Joe and tied to his desk to torture him wantonly. Joe pressed him to tell who was behind the scenes. But Cheney knew only one cassette, nothing else. Joe played the broadcast tape on the spot. It turns out that this is a criminal organization that specializes in helping rich people customize their imprisonment services. And there are many people who have been locked up in the dark for many years like Joe. Just when Joe wanted to learn more about what happened, the men outside realized that the situation was not good and rushed over with a group of people, and both sides immediately got into a fierce fight. Joe wielded the hammer in his hand to dry up a bunch of people all over. Due to the large number of opponents, Joe gradually ran out of strength. Finally, Joe was taken away by two men in black and left him outside Jack's bar. Mary, who learns of this, immediately rushes over to help him with his treatment. Worried about Mary, her companion approached Joe and hoped that Joe would not bring danger to Mary. This remark reminded Joe, so he found an excuse to drive Mary away. In the evening, Joe's cell phone rang again. But when he answered the phone hung up. Joe immediately called back, but unexpectedly found the phone ringing behind him. A man and a woman were sitting quietly in front of each other. The man then picks up the phone. Realizing that his enemy was right in front of him, Joe grabbed his dagger and rushed up, but was knocked down by the woman beside the man. They play the video of his ex-wife's murder in front of Joe. The man showed him a clear path. If he could find out two things, he would not only admit his crime and pay with his life, but also give him diamonds worth a lot of money. The first thing is to find out who he is, and the second thing is why he has been imprisoned for 20 years. At this time, the anger in Joe's heart rushed to his forehead. He struggled desperately, wanted to immediately go forward and kill the man. Who knows, the man brought the computer again to play the video, see that Mary was being kidnapped by a gang of men. Joe had to agree to the man's request, and the man immediately ordered his subordinates to let go. Joe rushed to Mary's house immediately, but was caught on the spot by Cheney's men. Just when it was in danger, the man's subordinates gave Cheney a bag of dollars. For the money's sake, Cheney took the people away. They hugged each other tightly when they came back from the dead. At that moment, the phone rang again, and Joe suddenly thought that the ringtone was the school song of Evergreen College. He was a student of this college. In order to find out the truth, they came to the principal's house, secretly found the student file, and finally saw the man's information on it. It turned out that he was also a student of Evergreen College. His name was Adrian. But that's not enough. In order not to attract attention, Joe and Mary decided to find a hotel to rest for a while, and then sneak into the academy to continue searching for clues after dark. After so many days together, they both have a good feeling for each other, and finally could not resist having sex. Everyone knows, all this is under Adrian's control. At the same time, Jack found clues from the internet and immediately sent Joe a message. Who knew that his phone had been tapped by Adrian long ago? And just like that, Jack was killed by Adrian and had his tongue cut off. On the other side, Joe and Mary have arrived at Evergreen Academy. It was learned through the file that Adrian has a younger sister named Amanda. At this time, Joe finally remembered a past event. It turns out that back then he inadvertently found Amanda having sex with her father. When he was young and ignorant, he spread the incident throughout the school. As a result, Amanda dropped out of school and the family moved away from the city, but even so, the rumors spread like a plague to the new city where Amanda's family moved to. In the end, tragedy strikes. Amanda's father shoots his family to death and kills himself, except for his older brother, Adrian, who survives through the doctor's resuscitation. After the truth is revealed, Joe and Mary receive Jack's tongue sent by Adrian at the gate of the academy. To keep Mary out of danger, Joe leaves her at home and goes to see Adrian alone this time. He was full of prepared and quickly killed the woman beside Adrian. Then, Joe asked him where Mia was. At this point, Adrian unhurriedly asked a third question: why let him go after 20 years? Joe's heart was full of doubts, and he naturally couldn't guess Adrian's intention. Afterwards, they came to a room filled with various camera equipment. Adrian told him that the interview videos about Mia were all fake. Joe's heart skipped a beat, and at this moment, he still had the last glimmer of hope. Anyway, as long as Mia is real, it would be fine. This time, Adrian led him to Mia. At this moment, Joe completely collapsed. It turned out that this Mia was also fake, and she was not his daughter at all. Angered, Joe attacked Adrian again and again, forcing him to reveal his daughter's whereabouts. With a flick of Adrian's hand, an image unfolded. The little girl in front of was Joe's daughter, but as she grew bigger, Joe's expression instantly distorted. He was horrified to discover that his biological daughter was Mary. Seeing Joe in so much pain, Adrian got his revenge and then shot himself dead. Unable to accept this fact, Joe chose to lock himself up again, and he would punish himself in this way until the end of his life.